Hello, my friends. It's Tuesday today, so that it's a good time to read a few articles and hear my opinion regarding them in the weekly Linux. My name is Alexander Barmin, and that's my channel. Please don't forget to put a like and subscribe. Let's start. The first article is about serialization and deserialization of Json in Spring Boot. Spring Boot uses Json under the hood to read and write JSON. It is recommended to create a separate set of DTOs for every layer in your application. And it actually makes sense. Your service layer knows nothing about data access layer. REST endpoints are independent of the service layer. This approach is ordinary has both benefits and drawbacks. Obvious benefit is independence, and the obvious drawback is that you need to create a collection of transformer that will copy-paste data from one object to another. There are libraries that allows you not to write converters, but Jackson's team did step forward and added a JSON view annotation that allows to use the same DTO for different views. For example, you need to show the same data in the customer and admin UI, and in order not to create additional collection of DTOs, you may use a JSON view annotation. Spring Framework, starting from version 4, supports it out of the box. And what you need to do is just to add a couple of annotations, depending on what you're going to do. In case if you want to read your JSON using a particular view, you put in it on top of the parameter. If you need to write it, you're putting it on top of the method, which you use for writing, for generating a JSON. So this significantly simplifies development, and secondly, it definitely allows you to write less code. Nevertheless, please use it wisely, because in case if you use separate set of DTOs, it's a bit, let's say, more reliable. And in case if you accidentally forget to put annotation somewhere, your data will not be disclosed. Please don't mess up with JSON view annotation with JSON ignore, because in case of JSON ignore annotation is put somewhere, the field will be, let's say, both excluded from reading and writing, which is a bit confusing. And obviously, there are some options which allows you to have a default configuration for JSON view. The second article is on my favorite topic. It is about design patterns. This article is a collection of free courses that will allow you to know more about design patterns and different scenarios when they should be applied. So article that itself is quite simple and straightforward. You're just following the link, and I want to tell a few words about design patterns themselves. Design patterns allow you not to reinvent the wheel all the time, and every time instead of creating the solution from scratch, you may reuse experience. If you see a task, you may notice that it can be solved by a particular pattern, and that's actually great. But also there is an opposite scenario when the design pattern is chosen to be implemented just because it exists. I have seen in my experience these cases as well. So, as ordinary, be wise and do not overcomplicate the solution. If you see something that requires a design pattern to be used, use it. If you're writing a small proof of concept, maybe it's better to write the simplest possible code. So, as ordinary, please follow Key's principle. Keep it simply stupid. Moving forward, provisioning of resources in AWS with Terraform. This article is an example how you can start using Terraform for dealing with your infrastructure. It might be considered as a very basic starting point to see all the power of the Terraform. And let me tell a little about Terraform itself and why it is so popular nowadays. AWS has a fantastic admin panel, and you can configure any service using admin panel. But still, there is a significant drawback. You can't easily reproduce the same result. It is tedious, it's a complicated process, and it is also really hard to track all the changes just because you're making them in the UI. And as ordinary, there is a completely opposite approach when you're describing the infrastructure as a code, for example, like this. This is a VPC I want to create. This is a database subnet I want to declare. And this is, let's say, an EC2 instance I want to run. This approach allows you to track changes in Git, easily roll back them, and reproduce it in different environments if necessary. And by the way, AWS has a couple of tools for managing infrastructure as code. It's CloudFormation and CDK, Cloud Development Kit. Both tools are great, but they allow to deal with AWS only. In case if you don't want to have a vendor lock or have to maintain infrastructure in different clouds, it's better to use something which is cloud agnostic. And Terraform does it. It allows you to use the same definition for different clouds, for example, for AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, and easily create, let's say, the same resources in different public clouds. And even, for example, you can run it even locally in case if you need to run something in Docker. So Terraform is definitely a very good tool to know. Great news for all the Git users. If you don't remember all the CLI parameters, it's not a problem anymore, because GitHub copilotx will help you with it. AI is a very popular topic nowadays, and it's a good experiment to try. But please be attentive and double check all the suggestions. For AI, actually, there is no difference between rflog and reset, so that you may accidentally lose your changes. Okay, getting back to serious things. Hibernate 6 is publicly available and it makes sense to migrate to it bit by bit. Nevertheless, there are some differences between Hibernate 5 and Hibernate 6 in generation of identifiers using sequences, at least in the default configuration. So by default, Hibernate 5 uses one single sequence for all the entities, but in Hibernate 6, every entity by default has its own sequence. Obviously, the same behavior can be configured in 5th version as well, but in 6 it is a behavior by default. The second major change is the allocation size. By default, Hibernate 5 requests only one value from the sequence, but Hibernate 6 requests a batch of 50 identifiers and use values from it one by one. And again, the same behavior can be configured in Hibernate 5, but still in Hibernate 6, it is a default behavior, which is a bit different from what we had in Hibernate 5. So please keep it in mind. That's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like it, put a comment, and subscribe to my channel. See you next week.